In January 2016, Chelsea Football Club announced the signing of a Brazilian striker on loan. The internet went insane. Football journalists called it a masterpiece of recruitment. Fans were convinced this was the man who would save their season. He had been described in his prime as more technically gifted than Cristiano Ronaldo. AC Milan had paid over 20 million euros for him when he was just 17 years old. 3 months after signing for Chelsea, he left, having made exactly one appearance for exactly 15 minutes. This is the story of Alexandre Pato, and it is one of the most heartbreaking stories football has ever produced. To understand what happened, you need to understand where he came from. Alexandre Rodrigues da Silva was born in 1989 in a small city in southern Brazil called Pato Branco. The city's name literally means white duck, so when the boy became a footballer, the nickname wrote itself. Pato, the duck, a name that would one day echo across the San Siro. At 14, Internacional, one of Brazil's biggest clubs, spotted him playing in the streets and signed him immediately. Within 2 years, he was their starting striker. At 16, he was scoring against grown men in the Brazilian top flight. Scouts from Europe started flying to Porto Alegre specifically to watch this kid. In 2006, when Pato was just 17, Internacional won the FIFA Club World Cup. They beat Barcelona. Pato didn't just play, he starred. The best club in the world had just been beaten, and one of the most important players on the winning side was a teenager who wasn't even old enough to vote. AC Milan had seen enough. They opened their checkbook. The deal was worth over 22 million euros, an extraordinary sum for a 17-year-old in 2007. But Milan scouts were convinced. They had just signed. They believed the future of world football. On November 7th, 2007, Alexandre Pato stepped onto the pitch at the San Siro for the first time. Not in a friendly, not in training, in a UEFA Cup match against Sporting Lisbon. He scored on his debut at 17 years old in front of 70,000 people. This wasn't a tap-in. It was composed, confident, the kind of goal you score when you belong. The San Siro, one of the most intimidating stadiums in world football, erupted for a Brazilian kid who had been in Italy for barely 3 months. His first Serie A season, 9 goals. Remember, he was 17. His second season, 15 goals. He was outperforming players who would go on to win the Ballon d'Or. His teammates at Milan included Kaká, who had won the Ballon d'Or in 2007, and later, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. These were the best players on the planet, and Pato was keeping pace with them. In 2009, Brazil called him up to the senior national team. He scored on his debut there too. He was 20 years old, playing at the highest level in club and international football, and he looked like he had been doing it his entire life, because in many ways, he had. Football journalists began making comparisons that, at the time, didn't seem ridiculous. They said he could be better than Messi. They said he could win multiple Ballons d'Or. They said Brazil had finally found its next great number 9, the heir to Ronaldo, to Romario, to the entire golden lineage of Brazilian strikers. The 2010 World Cup was coming, and everyone expected Pato to announce himself to the world. Then his hamstring went. It sounds simple. It was not simple. The hamstring injury in early 2010 kept him out for weeks. He returned. It happened again. He made the World Cup squad, but he wasn't fit. He played barely. Brazil crashed out in the quarterfinals against the Netherlands. Pato contributed almost nothing, but he was 20 years old. There was still time. There would always be more time. Except there wasn't. The injuries kept coming. Hamstring, thigh, knee. Each time he returned, something else would break. From 2010 to 2013, Pato missed more games than he played. The pace that made him terrifying. That explosive first step that had left Serie A defenders standing still. It never fully came back. Muscle injuries like his changed the body permanently. The player who returned from each layoff was slightly less explosive, slightly less devastating, slightly less Pato. AC Milan waited. They believed in him. But when your asset stops performing, patience has a deadline. In 2013, after nearly 6 years, Milan loaned him back to Brazil, to Corinthians. He scored. He looked decent. But decent was no longer the standard. The world had expected a legend. Decent wasn't going to cut it. The years that followed were a tour of disappointment. Corinthians, back to Sao Paulo, Villarreal in Spain, where he showed flashes of his old brilliance but couldn't stay healthy long enough to matter. The clubs kept getting smaller. The expectations kept shrinking. The name Pato shifted from a promise to a punchline. And then, somehow, Chelsea. In January 2016, Roman Abramovich, a man who had spent billions trying to win everything, approved a loan move for Pato. The English media went wild. Here was a chance at redemption. Here was the story everyone wanted. The fallen prodigy returning to prove the doubters wrong, doing it in the Premier League, doing it under the biggest spotlight in football. He arrived. He trained. He impressed in training by all accounts. Pato, the real Pato, was apparently still in there somewhere. Then he played 15 minutes. One substitute appearance against Aston Villa. 15 minutes. He touched the ball a handful of times. He didn't score. He didn't assist. And then, as quietly as he had arrived, he was gone. Back to Brazil. No proper explanation. No proper goodbye. To this day, no one has ever fully explained what happened. The official line was fitness concerns. Some reports suggested he wasn't as ready as he seemed. Others said the relationship with the coaching staff broke down immediately. We will probably never know the full truth. What we know is this. The man who was once called the next Pelé played 15 minutes of Premier League football and disappeared. What do you do after that? Pato went to China. Tianjin Quanjian paid him well. Chinese football was flush with cash in 2016, and they wanted names, not performances. He scored there. He earned there, but no one was watching. He returned to Sao Paulo. He had moments, genuinely good moments, where you could see the ghost of what he once was. But ghost is the right word. A ghost of a player who should have been one of the greatest of his generation. In 2019, he signed for Parma in Italy. It was supposed to be a second act, a return to Europe, a shot at proving something. He never played a single game. The deal collapsed. He left without kicking a ball. He went to Orlando City in MLS. He scored 9 goals in 2020. In a way, that's beautiful. Pato ended up playing football in the United States, in the same country where the 2026 World Cup would be held, the tournament he was once supposed to dominate as Brazil's talisman. By then, he was 30 years old. That chapter of his life was long closed. He retired quietly. No farewell tour. No testimonial match at the San Siro. No ceremony. The player who was supposed to win 5 Ballons d'Or just stopped playing football. Here is what I keep coming back to with Alexandre Pato. He did everything right. He trained harder than anyone. He came back from every injury. He never gave up. He went to China, to the US, to wherever someone would give him a chance. He kept fighting long after most players would have walked away. And that might be the most tragic part of all. Not the 15 minutes at Chelsea, not the injuries, not the missed World Cups. It's that the talent was real. The kid who scored on his debut at the San Siro at 17 years old, that was real. The potential was real, and the body just wouldn't let him reach it. Football is sometimes described as a beautiful game. Alexandre Pato's career was beautiful once, and then it was something else entirely. If you made it this far, drop a comment below. What's the saddest career in football history, in your opinion? I read every single one, and if you want more stories like this, the next one is going to hit even harder. Subscribe. You don't want to miss it.